Porto in 3 words.
Quality, consistency, Champions League.
It's 3-0 to Porto.
O cruzamento do Juari, golo!
It's towards Falcao. Here's the chance. Here's the goal.
Dele push Porto in front. Marcha com espaço, vai marcar, golo!
It's going to be Jose's night. It's going to be Porto's night.
When you were getting into football, Arsene, what did Porto represent for you?
The dominant club in Portugal, the club who wanted always to move forward. The club as well where it's difficult to buy players from because they buy expensive, they sell at a very high price all their best players. And for me, the success of the club is linked to quality scouting. And the recent examples we have is a player like Mangala, you know, or players like that who come always from small clubs in France and they sell at a very expensive price, and that's why they can survive certainly at the top level in Europe.
What makes them different from, say, Sporting and Benfica?
I would say they are not the main city in Portugal, and Benfica and Sporting are under a bit more pressure from the media, and it's a quieter area, and as well maybe less flashy place, and so they can have more working type players. In Benfica there's a history where you need always something special, and that's why maybe they could be a bit more consistent.
What do you remember about the coach Jose Maria Pedroto?
That he was very successful there, and that he made the team successful. You know, they had as well won the Champions League under Arthur Jorge already before, after won the Champions League with Mourinho, and they were at the time they played the final against Monaco, and it was 2 surprising teams who went into the final, and that's where the recent history of Porto became obvious.
What were the strengths of Arthur Jorge as a manager?
Well, a strong character, quiet, not talking too much, and they had quality players, you know, and it shows from Arthur Jorge to Mourinho to the modern period after with Villas-Boas, and now again that they had the consistency. No matter, even when a manager leaves, they survive always at the top level. They did not depend too much on the managers. They depended more on the global policy of the club.
What do you remember of the 1987 final?
They beat Munich. I think was it Majer who scored? Yeah. And he scored a special goal on that day, and we called after that backheel goal a Majer in France, you know, and it became a brand. But it was a special goal. The game was very tight, and Majer made the difference. The creativity, they scouted in North Africa, because Majer is Algerian, and then he became, of course, an idol in all North Africa.
In the early 90s they turned to Bobby Robson, despite him being fired by Sporting. What did you make of that decision?
It was a good decision for me, because Bobby Robson was an exceptional manager, and I think Bobby Robson is one of the few managers who managed England who after had still a career, because usually being manager of England is destroyer of managers, you know, and mentally as well, and that's why I think Bobby Robson made the first great move, first to go to Eindhoven, then to Portugal, from Sporting to Porto, where he was very successful.
In the mid-90s, they won 5 championships in a row. What are the ingredients behind that sort of domination?
Well, I think during that period, Benfica went through had a tough ride, and Sporting as well. And they were the dominant. They just bought always what is the best in Portugal. And let's not forget that Portugal is the biggest import country of Brazilian. And many Brazilians who went to Porto started in smaller clubs in Portugal, and they bought them after, and they took always the best players from the smaller clubs in Portugal. And during that period they did just what they wanted, and they had always the best team.
2002 they appointed Jose Mourinho. What did you know of Jose Mourinho before the appointment?
Honestly, nothing. You know, it was a surprise that they signed young managers. He worked in a smaller club in Portugal, but didn't know a lot about him. I didn't know him at all.
What did he bring to the job?
Well, he was successful immediately, and his huge desire that he has still today, you know, you never lose that, his desire to be successful in his own style, and straight away he was successful.
Verlei estacionado, chega a Deco, está solto, Alex, é o rebate, outra vez, é o golo do Porto, é Verlei, é o 10º golo do brasileiro nesta taça UEFA.
Pull back to Deco. 2-0. Has there ever been a more coolly taken goal in a Champions League final?
How good was the side that won the UEFA Cup in 03 and then the Champions League a year later?
They were very good, because to have that consistency, you know, you need good players. I remember players like Deco, like Carvalho, who later have moved away, shown how good players they were. And I think when you want to win UEFA Cup and the Champions League in 2 years, you must be special.
Would you have ever celebrated a goal by running down the touchline?
Can happen, yes. You know, that can. When you're so young, when you get older, you manage to control yourself better. When you so young, it can. It's the dream coming true. That can happen, yes.
The club's form dipped for a few years and they won 4 leagues in a row. How highly did you rate Jesualdo Ferreira as a coach?
I like him very much because he was a more experienced coach, but I had a few conversations with him, and he was a real football man. And he had a long experience in Portugal, and he won year after the championship with Porto. He continued the domination of Porto in Portugal, and I enjoyed very much what he did.
What did André Villas-Boas bring to the job?
Well, again, he was a new Mourinho, and straight away successful when he came in, and won Europa League, you know, with Porto as well, and then moved away. He was like a clone of Mourinho, because when he was successful, moved away straight away to England, and to the same destination. That means Porto and Chelsea have a very strong link, and so was a similar type who was successful very young.
Porto have won more trophies than Benfica in Portugal. Does that mean they're the bigger club?
No, because it depends what is for you the size of a club. Is it the number of trophies they won? It's part of it, but it's as well, I think, the support you have. The size of a club is first of all linked with the size of people who love the club. And I think in this country, unfortunately for Porto, wouldn't like to take anything away from them, but Benfica is the club of people, you know, and in every single country you have that.
When I say the name Pinto da Costa to you, what are your thoughts?
The brain behind Porto, Pinto da Costa, I think he's now over 70. He has been for a very long time there. He has always made very brave decisions. We spoke about the managers he appointed, we spoke about his policy. What we don't know about Porto, they sell their players at a very expensive price, but they invest a lot of money in young Brazilian players who they, of course, train well to get them out of the system. And Pinto da Costa is behind the policy for a long, long time. He worked a lot with Luciano D'Onofrio for a long time, and together they run this club in a very positive way.
How good a businessman is he?
Top businessman. But Porto is now linked with a lot of third-party ownership. You know, for example, when Falcao, I read an interview of Pinto da Costa when Falcao left Porto for Atletico Madrid. The transfer price at the time was quite very high, 40 million euros. And Pinto da Costa in the interview said that in fact Porto got only 15 million euros from that, because the investment was done by an investment fund.
The club have sold star after star. Deco, Carvalho, Pepe, Quaresma, Hulk, James Rodriguez, Falcao, Coutinho. How are they still competitive?
Because they plan. Because they plan the future, because they invest in young players, because they get the best players in Portugal, because they have a very good scouting system, because they give a chance to young players, and that's why.
He's the most decorated president in football. Is his blood blue and white?
I couldn't imagine it differently, you know, because it's not only that he has been there for a while, it's his life. And in fact, he recently married at the age of 70, you know, so that means his whole life has been dedicated to Porto, and I cannot see how it could be differently.
The club turned to Julian Lopetegui in the summer. He was successful with the Spanish under-19s and 21s. What do you make of him?
I believe that he's faithful to the system that Porto always played, the 4-3-3. He's faithful to the possession football that Portugal loves, and that he has adapted very well. And it shows you as well that Pinto da Costa is not scared to go abroad. That could mean two things. At the moment, they have no young, outstanding managers in Portugal, and but again, maybe Porto made the right decision.
Can he make a name for himself like Jose Mourinho did, like Andre Villas-Boas did?
Yes, Porto is a good basis to do that. But something has changed in the last 2-3 years. Benfica has come up, you know, and Benfica with Jesus is stable, is successful. So Porto now has a bigger battle than a few years ago, and it's a bit more difficult for them.
Is that an extra pressure for the manager?
Of course it is. When you are at a club who, as you said before, has dominated Portuguese football for 10, 15, 20 years, and suddenly you have somebody else in front of you, you are questioning.
What do you like about the formation? How do they set up to play?
Look, what I like is that they have a mixture of solidity at the back with a Brazilian backbone. There are Casemiro and Herrera in the middle of the park are quite, they've replaced Fernando, who was the key of their spine in the team, and they did very well in getting him. And they have up front Brahimi, Jackson, Martinez, who are efficient and creative. And that's why I think when you look at the team today, before it was Brazilian, Portuguese, today it is a worldwide selection because you have Jackson Martinez, you have who is Colombian, Brahim is Algerian, and they have Brazilians at the back. So I think it's a world selection today more than a mixture of Portuguese and Brazilian football players.
Are the back five a solid five for you?
Yeah, they're very solid at the back. And I noticed that when they played against Lille in a pre-qualifier for the Champions League, they left absolutely no chance to Lille, and they were by far the better team in the 2 games.
The midfield, Casemiro, Hector Herrera and Quaresma. What do you think of these individual players?
Look, Casemiro is solid, Herrera is a box-to-box player, and Quaresma is the creative player. Quaresma, Brahimi make the game. Quaresma is a hugely talented player that we know all because he has been away from Portugal, he is in Barcelona. And he's a player who can run with the ball, can give a final ball, and he's a typical Portuguese player.
Could he have been better, Arsene?
Yes. Yes, because he was everybody. He's a bit like another player I love very much, like Nani, you know, hugely talented players. And maybe they have gone into clubs where they were not rated because there's some other top star players who take over. And there's one thing to be a great player, but when you arrive into another big club, there's always somebody else who wants to be the best, and sometimes you have to live a little bit in the shadow of these players.
Do you like Tello?
I love Tello. He's from Barcelona. He's very quick, goes at you. Sometimes he comes in for Brahimi, and I must say I see a great future for him.
Does Brahimi have a good future too?
Brahimi has a good future. I won't hide anything if I tell you that they speak about him in Paris Saint-Germain now, because he was in Rennes before, didn't have the career that everybody expected him to have in France, moved to Portugal, and it could be that you see him soon in Paris Saint-Germain.
Jackson Martinez, what are his strengths?
Top physical strengths, hugely efficient. He is a kind of player who can make room for himself in the box. He could play in the Premier League, Jackson Martinez, because he has the body to make the difference. He uses in a very intelligent way his body, very short backlift, and is a very good finisher.
Is he potentially the next big name to leave?
Yes, of course. He's on the list of many clubs. You know that. And he will be the next big transfer who will give a big smile to Pinto da Costa.
In the Porto-Benfica match, out of the starting 22, there was only one Portuguese player. Is that a worry?
Yes. It's a worry because there's the 2 biggest clubs in Portugal at the moment, the 2 clubs who have the most biggest financial power, and that means, of course, the Portugal national team could suffer from that. Is it a transitional period where Portugal produces less players, less Portuguese players? It is a bit everywhere the same. Or you have big immigration, and the immigrated players are maybe more hungry, want it more. You see that in all the countries, you know. And maybe, we spoke about that many times, the South American players are hungrier still in the modern game. On that continent, maybe, where I wanted more.
Fernando Gomes.
Fernando Gomez is the striker that everybody knows after Eusebio in Portugal. Great striker, great goal scorer, and huge consistency in his efficiency.
João Pinto.
João Pinto, I loved João Pinto because he was a very offensive defender, and I loved what he did going forward. And in fact, at some stage I wanted to buy him.
Do you remember he wouldn't let go of the European Cup in '87? He held it aloft and then...
Yes, I remember that, yes.
Rabah Madjer.
Madjer, creativity, technique, subtlety, and inspirational.
Madjer com espaço, vai marcar, gol!
Jorge Costa.
Jorge Costa, toughness, ruthless, tackler, ready to die to win.
Vitor Bahia.
He's a legend as a goalkeeper, and certainly the legend of Portuguese football as a goalkeeper as well. Intelligent, very mobile, was ahead of the game at the time.
Deco.
Deco for me was a revelation as a football player. I remember one day I traveled with Alberto Pereira, I was manager of Brazilian national team, and I told him, why don't you take Deco? Because I loved him so much when I saw him play. He said, look, there are so many Brazilian players who play abroad that I don't even know because they leave the country so early. Deco was one of them, and was an exceptional football player, Deco.
First Stadio dos Antas before they moved to the Dragão. What are your memories from that stadium?
It was always a physical experience to get there, and always very tough. We played many times there, and we beaten them sometimes very well in England, but always had a rough time there.
And the Dragão, what springs to mind when you think of the Dragão?
Well, people are very close. It's a little bit an English atmosphere, you know, and that helps them a lot.
Do you like the design?
Yes, I love the design, but the modern designs are similar, you know, now, because you have an experience of many modern stadiums. It's always very well done. I don't know always the stadiums from inside, because you go to the dressing room and you go on the bench, and you go home and you have just more an experience of a feeling with the fans.
How passionate are the Porto fans?
Portugal, football is their life, you know, and there's sometimes even more motivation because they feel they are not the main city, and the way to take a revenge there is through their football team against the main city.